She travels to Earth through the rainbow crystal bubbles from the furthest reaches of space and time, across the dimensions, through the elements, and in harmony with the colors of the universe. Through her mastery of abstract stream of consciousness malapropisms, she weaves a web of comic, satiric, cosmic conversation. Her subjects can range from Norman, the goose next door, to astrology and earth changes, and into the deep recesses of the soul matrix. She holds a wealth of knowledge on herbs, plants, and astrology. Join Mona and her guests on Adventures of a Feral Hippie as she touches the earthly radio waves 5 days a week at 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Studio B at Revolution Radio.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
We have again received word from Randall from Stevens Point. I got my gun in my truck. Told you I'm headed for the woods and up the mountain, and that's where I am right now. I can see y'all right from right here through my scope. Don't worry, I got the safety on. Well, it's on now. Tell Bubba Jean I always loved her. Don't follow me. Got on my camo jeans. You'd never find me. When you hear about the big shootout and all that, that'll probably be me. Randall's note continues. The essence of any false flag terror event is a story. It has to be compelling. It has to hit us on an emotional level. It must feature heroes, villains, victims, and an assortment of supporting players. It must have a setting, both in space and time, which becomes an essential part of its core message. The story will have a plot and subplots that are heartbreaking, angering, inspiring, and uniting, even if ultimately causing anxiety and a sense of helplessness in the audience. Our sense of security is temporarily threatened by a disorienting act of violence, but we are reassured that those in authority will protect us and that we will find strength in overcoming the adversity. And more from Randall. Dave McGowan explained why people are so hostile to the idea that Apollo was not what we were told. It's not the lie itself that scares people. It's what that lie says about the world around us and how it really functions. For if NASA was able to pull off such an outrageous hoax before the entire world, then keep that lie in place for 4 decades. What's that say about the control of the information we receive? What does that say about the media, the scientific community, and educational community, and all the other institutions we depend on to tell us the truth? What does that say about the very nature of the world we live in? This is why the term conspiracy theorist has been cultivated and baked into our culture to defend those in power from having the big lies challenged.
This is Andy Rooney reporting for the New American Dream radio show. Do you ever wonder, well, the kind of people we have running our government? If we really knew the truth, I believe we would be astonished. Forget about George Washington and the cherry tree, Ronald Reagan making America strong again, the George Bushes riding into the baseball game on national TV to throw out the first ball, then sitting in the front row. Forget about Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, the liberal Democrats who care about you. SpongeBob, The Simpsons, and South Park, Calvin and Hobbes, Snoopy have more to tell us than those guys. At least in the Soviet Union, when they saw nonsense and lies printed in Pravda and TASS, at least they knew they were lies. We are still at the infancy stage in our development of not questioning the lies. And so the next time there is a bombing or a threat of a bombing or a bunch of baby blue backpacks found on a brown bench in Bemidji, the healthy American, the true American, the real American, thinks CIA, FBI, the police. The real patriot refuses to stand for the national anthem, and rather than another knee-jerk reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, he says, not until I get some questions answered, because this is important stuff. This has been Andy Rooney reporting for the New American Dream radio show. Don't you ever wonder? Our next guest to the show is Frank Cordero. Frank Cordero joins us from Des Moines, Iowa, the heart of America, the Des Moines Catholic worker. Frank is a former Catholic priest and a former federal prisoner and county jail prisoner for peace. And we're going to listen now to the conversation between Frank Cordero in Des Moines and Chuck Gregory in Fort Lauderdale.
On the president, damaging information on the president.
Yo, Chuck.
Well, hello, Frank.
Oh, God. You want an interview, don't you?
I sure do.
Okay. You caught me. I'm in L.A., Los Angeles. I'm at the Catholic worker there.
You are?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I fixed a deal with my community so I can get 2 weeks away to come here in Los Angeles, cloudy, now sunny, Los Angeles, to visit my good friend Jeff Dietrich and his wonderful wife, Catherine Morrison, and the L.A. Catholic worker. These guys are the folks who are on Skid Row, and they do a soup kitchen 3 days a week, and they'll serve between 8 to 1,000 people. These guys do big stuff, and they have this soup kitchen right in the middle of Skid Row, and I don't know if you've kept up with the recent homeless issues, but the Skid Row poses a very unique challenge for the city of L.A. because over the last 10 years, it's always been a problem for humanity and human care of homeless people.
Right.
However, the population has continued to grow on a yearly basis. They just did a study at the LA Times and says there's up to 65,000 or 6,500 homeless people in this area, in the city. And most of them reside in this. And this is the deal. They reside in tents on the sidewalk.
Really?
It's like an occupation.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
they're ingrained, and they try to move them, and they could just come right back. And the LA Catholic worker folks have been on their side and in their camp, trying to support these people that be dealt with humanly and humanely, looking for better housing. So it's just a really, it's a flashpoint in this country where the scars and ugliness of homelessness are just right out there. And they just can't seem to budge this population, no matter how many times they bounce them and throw them in jail. Very fascinating culture in America for me, because I was here 10 years ago, and I go to any of the community meetings. It's a blessing.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's just they're folks I've always admired, and I'm grateful I'm out here because I'm looking for. Yeah, I've always for years looked to Jeff and Catherine as look how they do it, and that's what's coming. So I got to figure out some kind of way of retiring in the next few years too, whether I want to or not.
Yeah.
I mean, Chuck, it's the nature of our lives at this point.
It is.
Growing old. Yeah. Do you have any growing old plan?
Well, I'd like to grow old. Yeah, that beats the alternative.
That's you're planning on doing it. That's good. Well, yeah. It's just, it's just for me. It's a gift to have other people to share in this experience. Not that not people don't get old. I mean, everybody in my family is getting old. What I'm saying is getting older with other people in the Catholic Worker clan, and seeing how to best serve that movement that we love and care about. Yeah. Yes. And one of the bottom lines that both Jeff and I want to meet as we exit is that we don't want the young people we leave behind to be mad at us because they're either the ones that are going to wipe our ass or write our epitaph. Either way, it serves us well to appreciate the people who are trying to follow in this stream.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that that you got to go out there and visit out there, and I hope you continue to have a good visit.
I'll be coming back the 14th, so you'll have another call here in California. I'll give you a 7-day update on what's going on.
Well, all right. Sounds good.
All right,
I look
friend.
forward to
God
talking
bless.
to you next week. God bless. Bye-bye.
All right, Chuck. Bye-bye.
Our next guest on the show is Azura Crispino. Azura Crispino joins us each month from Austin, Texas. She is a professor of philosophy at Austin Community College and also a prisoner inmate advocate. And now we're going to hear from Azura Crispino in Austin, Texas.
Hello, New American Dream listeners. This is Azura Crispino with PATS, Prison Abolition Prisoner Support, and I have a special treat for you. I am going to be interviewing a friend and someone who was my pen pal for a couple of years and is now on this side of the razor wire. His name is Lukman, and we are going to be discussing the importance of writing letters, but also how it is to celebrate the holy month of Ramadan inside of prison. So thank you so much for joining me, Lukman.
Thank you for having me, Azura.
Well, if you wouldn't mind,
to all my brothers.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to start just by telling a little bit of how we met. So your cousin, Douglas Lucas, asked me if I would please write to you, and I did. And then it turned out that we had a couple of shared interests, and so we kind of started the conversation that way. But what in general would you say is the importance of receiving letters?
The big importance that is it makes a person feel as though they are still part of the world. You know, it's the common phrase for the outside, for people on the inside, is the free world. They refer to it as the free world, you know, as if it's another world completely, because that's exactly how it feels. It feels like you've been removed from the world, and now you're in another world, you know, a very different world. And, you know, as you can imagine, prison life, the prison world is so different that it is like you're in another world now. So when you have contact from the outside, you don't feel so separated from the free world, as we call it. It gives you a sense that you haven't just been sort of abandoned or forsaken or just cast away. You know, you're still part of the world. You're still part of society, and you're not alone. So just that in itself, that contact from the free world, someone speaking to you personally, makes that a reality to you, because it is so different from the outside life that it's very easy to just feel as though you're no longer a part of the world that you were born and grew up in. And you can feel very, very, very forgotten. You can feel very forgotten and lost, really. And getting those letters from the free world written to you really alleviates that. So it's vastly important. Just in that sense, it's vastly important. I think it actually helps to sort of combat institutionalization. You know, I mean, no matter what, you're going to do some time in prison, you're going to be institutionalized in some way. But if you have still contact with the outside world, you don't just completely lose your identity and completely identify yourself as an inmate in prison, and that becomes your entire identity. When you have contact with the free world, you know, who you are as a human being, living here on planet Earth, is kept alive by this contact with the free world.
Well, thank you for that. My next question to you is, I believe that you converted to Islam in prison. Is that correct?
Yes, in 1989, I did.
Okay. And I guess I just wanted, if you wouldn't mind, for those of us who are not Muslim in the audience, could you just briefly speak about the importance of Ramadan? I know you're not allowed to eat from sunset to sundown for 30 days, and that it ends in Eid. But that's, I think, all I know.
Okay, well, the month of Ramadan is the 9th month on the lunar calendar by which the Muslims go by. And that's the month where the Quran was first began to be revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in the year 610. So every year during that month, as we are commanded in Quran, we fast during the daylight hours. Like I say, we do not eat, we do not drink. We try to abstain from a lot of worldly activities. It means that is the month of the Quran was sent down. We read each day of that month. We read 1/30th of the Quran, and there are extra prayers that we do. There's a lot of studying that we do. Of course, it doesn't really apply to prison, but for Muslims who are married and who are outside, you don't have sexual relations during the daylight hours either. Ramadan is the experience of it is always sort of a rejuvenation or a reinvigorating, you know, sort of a catharsis. It purifies you and strengthens you. So it is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's one of the basic tenets of Islam. It's fasting in Ramadan. So it's obligatory unless you are, you know, too sick to do it, or you're engaged in some sort of a long journey, a travel, or something like that. Then you don't do it. You can make up for it later if you're able to. If you're too sick to fast, period, then you don't. But if for some reason you can't fast at that time, you can make up for whatever days that you missed afterwards. But it is definitely a requirement, just as our making our prayers, you know, and the zakat, and, you know, and the making of the pilgrimage, if we're physically financially able. It is a requirement of religion, but it's definitely a very spiritual time. There's a lot of religiosity. There's a lot of prayers. There's a lot of study. There's the recitation of Quran, but it's really a time of sort of really getting in touch again with your faith. You know, we go to Juma every Friday, so that's sort of a weekly rejuvenation, and we pray every day. That's sort of a daily rejuvenation. Well, this is sort of a yearly rejuvenation. So it's I can't stress really how important it is, but it is vastly important. That's why every Muslim in the world does it. That's why it's such a big deal. You know what I mean? It's just
so.
Really big
Let me ask you this: what's it like to celebrate Ramadan in prison? Can you just take me through your day? You know, maybe a standard day.
Well, it's very challenging. It's very challenging. You have to get approved to be on the Ramadan list, and that's something that the inmate coordinators work with the unit chaplains and administration to get done. And every morning they'll call us out before they feed breakfast to everyone else, and they feed the Muslims. And that's always very challenging. You know, a lot of the officers, especially in the morning time, because they're working the night shift when the unit is generally locked down until breakfast, During the month of Ramadan, they have this new thing they have to deal with, which is getting all these Muslims out, getting them down to the chow hall, and getting them to bed, and then getting them out of the chow hall to the chapel or to the education building or wherever it is they're holding their services every morning so they can commence their fast and do their morning prayers. And a lot of times we read Quran early in the morning time there. So it's a big challenge, you know what I mean, because there's a lot of resistance in a lot of the units to it. They're just very aggravated that this is of course, that Muslims have on them anyway in this day and age, ever since 9/11, of course. So there's a lot of attitudes, and the officers are real quick to jump on us, to get on us, and we have to file grievances every year. And then we go through our general day after that. After we commence our fast and do our prayers, we leave and we go to our work or back to our cells or whatever it is that